Hello, creatures. Welcome to Bound by Words. If we haven't met yet, my name is Maddie. I am a manuscript editor and a fantasy writer. And today, I want to talk about burnout. If you've been on my channel 2 or more times, then please consider subscribing and joining our community here at Bound by Words. I want to talk a lot about burnout for a few reasons. One is I really just dug myself out of some pretty serious burnout, and I've learned a lot of things about it and about how to combat it that I really wanted to share. Also, I recently, in the pit of my burnout, heard this quote, and I'm pretty sure it was from an advertisement or like a commercial or something, so I'm definitely paraphrasing, but it was a guy that was basically saying that burnout isn't doing too much. Burnout is not doing enough of what brings you joy and what brings you satisfaction. And that really hit home with me. Like, as soon as I heard that, I thought about it and I was like, wow, yeah, that seems to be what's happening, because you feel like you're doing too much. You feel like all you're doing is working and sleeping and eating and repeating over and over and over again, and you feel like you just don't have time to yourself. But in reality, that feeling of being burnt out and done and needing a break really stems from the lack of doing things that bring you joy. So I decided to very proactively attack burnout instead of just letting it correct itself, which it normally does, and I found it to be very effective. So I want to share that with you guys. I will put some chapters down in the description if you want to jump around. First, we're going to be talking really about the what and the why and the how to identify it. Then we're going to be talking about changing your mindset, because correcting your mindset is the first and easiest way to get out of the burnout fatigue, is sort of how I've been thinking about it. And then lastly, we're going to go over some really useful methods and ways to combat burnout. So without further ado, I want to talk about what burnout is. We already skimmed about this a little bit in the intro, just the not doing enough of things that bring you joy and satisfaction. And the reason that the feeling of burnout really comes about, for me personally, it usually starts as I start feeling like I have less and less control. I have less and less free time, and I have less control over the time I do have, and it brings over a generally negative feeling. You hear burnout and you recognize that it's definitely something negative that's happening. Different instances and different people experience this differently, but overall it is a sense of fatigue, a lack of motivation, maybe a sense of tiredness, or the feeling of being overworked. That's the way it feels. In reality, it is definitely, in many instances, the lack of finding those little joyous moments. For example, this is a writing channel, so we have these big writing contests like NaNoWriMo, and if you are new to the community or you're part of a different community, NaNoWriMo is essentially a month-long writing challenge where hundreds of thousands of writers across the world try to write an entire book, 50,000 words or more, in 1 month. It is very difficult to do, and it can be very exhausting, and Flurry is causing such a ruckus because he wants to be in the video. But, basically, the feeling that a lot of people get after NaNoWriMo is burnout, because they spend all of their free time writing, they stress over their writing, they make sure that they're tracking things like word count and progress and community engagement over writing well and enjoying it. There are definitely a lot of people who push their hobby past the point of enjoying in those months, and then immediately after you're left with this feeling of, wow, that wasn't even that fun. Which is where that burnout starts, and this can happen really with any hobby. Like, if you push yourself too hard and you don't really savor the parts of it that you like, you're gonna start to feel the burnout symptoms. So the issue with burnout is 2 things. One, whenever you start to feel burnout, you start to get into the, okay, I don't want to do things, I'm only going to do what I have to do, and then I'm going to move on. For example, you come home from work, and there are a lot of things that can be done, but you're like, you know what, I only really have to do this one chore, I only really have to do this one task. You get it done because it's kind of non-optional, and then you move on. Also, burnout, the second point, is a little bit addictive, which sounds kind of funny because we just talked about how it's such a negative feeling, but burnout itself is quite addictive because you are a lot less accountable to yourself and to other people when you are experiencing burnout. So if I say, I just wrote for a whole month, I really pushed my limits, I need a break, then all of a sudden I'm in a period where I don't have a plan, I don't have a goal, I don't have any set time where I am giving myself to relax, or set time where I'm going back to my project, and because of that, I am in this like little lawless state of I can do whatever I want for right now. And that's why I think burnout is so addictive, and I think it makes it a lot harder for you to get out of burnout, especially if you have a smaller list of tasks that you have to do. For example, breaking habits is very easy in a period of burnout, which is why it is so dangerous and I think life distorting. I personally, whenever I go through burnout, I feel like when I come out the other end, I really have to resituate my habits, and I really have to resituate how I'm going about doing things, because I have broken all of those sort of rules and guidelines that I've given for myself. And that is the why burnout is such an issue, and it can be so hard to dig yourself out of, but there is hope, because, and now we're going to be talking about what we can do about it. The first thing we can do about burnout is changing our mentality. So I briefly touched on this earlier, but a lot of the times when you have burnout, you get into the what do I have to do now and make sure it gets done mentality, but in reality, a better way to think about it is, what can I do today to give myself a less stressful tomorrow? So paint this picture with me. Imagine this scene. You just came home from your 9 to 5, and I know not everyone works a 9 to 5, but I'm just picking very familiar time frames to work with here. So you get home from your 9 to 5, and you have like a long to-do list. Say the sink is full of dishes, you don't have any clean socks, you have some sort of project, whether it's homework, hobby, whatever, due in like 3 days. Your bedroom's messy, your living room's messy, and you're just tired. You're tired from pushing yourself too hard, and you feel burnt out, and you want to relax, and it is stressful. A lot of us will default switch to the what do I have to get done mentality. In the what do I have to get done mentality, you might think, if I clean my room today or tomorrow, it doesn't really matter, but I do know that I need socks, so I need to do laundry. So I'm going to do laundry, and then I'm going to relax, and I'm going to do nothing for the day. Now, time moves a lot faster whenever you're just like, I'm just going to sit and relax. So instead of having that mentality and worrying about, like, what do I have to do, we're going to switch the way we think about it, and we're going to think, like, today was a really stressful day. It was really hard. I have lots of things to do. I'm overwhelmed. What can I do today to give myself a less stressful tomorrow? That's the mindset we want. Not the, what do I have to do today? Because I have so many things going on. Try to say, what can I do today to give myself a better tomorrow? So we're going to look at that same to-do list. You came home from your 9 to 5, you're super overwhelmed, stressed out, you have this long list of things to do, and you think, like, if I did some laundry, I would have a less stressful tomorrow because I know I would have clean clothes and I wouldn't have to worry about it. Okay, and then you're looking at your to-do list, and you're like, you know what? I'm not going to be any more or less stressed if my room is clean tomorrow. I'm not going to be more or less stressed if my living space is clean tomorrow. But I would be a little bit less stressed if I, cleaned the dishes so that I had the kitchen space to cook. Like, I want to cook for myself tomorrow because I get some joy and satisfaction from cooking. So you might throw your laundry in, and then while the washer is running, spend 20 minutes doing the dishes, and then all of a sudden you have 2 things of your to-do list done. Or you can even say, or you could do both. You can say, you know what, I have this project in 3 days that's due. I should pull it up and really make a plan. I'd be less stressed tomorrow if I really know what the project entails and know how long it's going to take. I, for one, don't always look at my homework immediately and say, okay, this is going to take me 10 hours. Usually takes me a little while after it's assigned to really pull it up, which is a bad habit. But I will have these moments where I'm like, you know what, even if I don't start it now, I'm going to look at it, I'm going to decide how much time it's probably going to take, and I'm going to make a plan for when I'm going to spend the time to do that. And that act alone, it might take 15 minutes, really alleviates a lot of stress for me. So the way you go about changing your mindset is going to be different when it comes to the smaller things for each individual person, because you want to ask yourself again, what can I do today to give me a less stressful tomorrow? And different things stress different people out to different degrees. So there is really no, you want to get out of burnout, you have to do laundry and do your dishes. That's not what I'm saying. If you want to get out of burnout, you have to start proactively thinking, what can I do to change my mood, my attitude, and help my body handles stress better, because stress can be a very physical response, and that makes it a lot harder to overcome burnout. So now we have a good understanding of what's going on and why, what we need to start doing to make changes, and now we're going to be talking about some changes we can make small steps to help pull yourself out of burnout. And I will say I started doing this about 2 weeks ago, and it has really helped me immensely. So I've had this period of burnout in the last month where I haven't been creating content. If you're a regular part of this community, you've probably noticed that. I haven't posted anything in I think 5 weeks, which is very unlike me because I usually post twice a week. I also haven't been posting a lot on Instagram. I've been trying to share things and comment and be active, but I've just felt like that I haven't had the time, bouncing from one job to the next in this weird period of transition. So this is what I did to make myself more aware and to get myself out of that hole. And honestly, within a week and a half, I was seeing some general improvements. So without further ado, this is going to sound very anticlimactic, but get yourself a pen and a paper. Whether or not you're a list maker, humor me and make a list. Write down all of the little things in life that are really satisfying to have done. And I need to emphasize the satisfying to have done, because some of these things aren't fun to do. The goal isn't to find things that are really fun to do. The goal is to find things that after you have done them, you get a feeling of satisfaction that helps you see that your life is getting back on track, that you're getting back into the productive swing of things. So small lists, make sure that you incorporate things that are quick and maybe some things that take a medium length. If you're really in the pits of burnout, don't pick anything large. If you're really having a burst of motivation and you're I need to do something life-changing, then maybe pick a more time-consuming task. An example of some small things on my list I really weirdly, when my bed is made. When I come home and I'm my bed is made, even though it doesn't really change anything or make a difference or help me at all, when I walk past that, I just feel good about it. So it's not something that's fun to do, it's not something that's hard to do, but it's something that when it's done, I feel satisfied. Cleaning up my workspace is another thing. I tend to let my workspace get a little bit cluttered. I have some cords back there that I can even pin and organize a little bit more. But just taking 15 minutes or so and coming in here and saying, you know what, I don't need these books on my desk. I can put these pens in a spot. I'm going to get rid of some old water bottles. I'm going to wipe my desk off with cleaner. I love when I wipe my desk with cleaner. I just feel put together and I feel good about things. So moving on to some of the medium-sized things on my list, something that I really enjoy having done is creating content. This is my hobby. I love writing and I love story crafting and I love connecting with authors, and I am not a film enthusiast. This is the first time I've really recorded anything on this channel. It's the first time I've really used audio editing software or video editing software in any serious capacity. So it's not something that I get excited to do. I don't sit down in my office going yes, I'm gonna edit a video. It's probably my least favorite part of the process. But when I post a video and I see that people are watching it and responding and interacting, I get a feeling of satisfaction to know that I have this hobby and this goal and I am doing something to achieve it. And I love that. It's honestly a little bit of high for me that I ride. So I am creating content again, and it was my ultimate goal to be doing that anyway, so it just helps. I normally do 2 videos a week. If I did 1 video a week just to get that little bit of dopamine boost by having done it, that is great. Another thing that is a little bit time consuming that I love having done but don't always find time for myself, well, there's 2 things. The first is to read a physical book. I read a lot. I love stories. I consume a lot of stories, but I also read a lot for work. I am almost a full-time manuscript editor now, which is exciting, so I spend most of my day reading and editing and altering text. I also spend most of the time I'm getting ready, listening to audiobooks, so I don't always get the chance to sit down physically with a book, relax with tea and blankets and whatever and read. So an easy, quick, but slightly time-consuming thing that I was able to do to help switch my mindset and really make me feel more productive is set some time to read for myself. Whether it's 30 minutes before bed, an hour after I wake up, maybe I'm just waiting for something and I just feel I can't do anything productive because I'm waiting for something, then I can sit and read and spend a little bit of time doing that, and it's really great. And the second thing I was going to say is writing without any pressure or plan. So whenever you're writing and you're writing a book and you're creating content that you're sharing about that book, there is a pressure to know what's going on. Like, there's this weight on your shoulders to say, you know what, like, I have to be able to share what I'm doing. I have to be able to share my progress. I have to be able to share my experiences. So I have to push forward, and I'm in a very frustrating point in my story right now, and it's not fun. So to give myself something fun and relaxing that I enjoy having done, I took some time and I wrote without law. I wrote with no plan. I wrote new characters. I just like short stories. I broke in Scrivener 3, which recently came out, which is a writing software that I love. So that update came out and I played around with it and I just wrote for myself and it was great. So that's something nice and relaxing that I found to do for myself that I enjoyed having done. Like, after I did that, even though it wasn't something immensely productive, I felt like I was spending time on the hobbies that really meant something to me, and that really changed my attitude. So sprinkling these things in slowly over the first like week or two is really like the best way to do it, because if you're feeling burnout, you don't have time to just wake up and be like, okay, I'm gonna do this, this, and this. That can be stressful. So just saying, you know what, I'm feeling really burnt out, I'm feeling discouraged, I'm feeling that emotional fatigue or lack of motivation. What can I do today to make it a little bit less stressful today, or to make a less stressful tomorrow? And one of those things might be like, you know what, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna make my bed because I like the feeling when my bed is made. Something might be like, I just walked in the door from work, I only have 15 minutes, and I wanna sit down and I wanna watch TV for 15 minutes, and I don't wanna worry about anything else. I'm just gonna put the TV on. And another thing that I really wanna emphasize while we're talking about, taking time to do things that you like and to doing things that you have liked having done, is to really appreciate the time you're giving for yourself. Now, I fall into this situation where sometimes I have burnout and my time to myself doesn't necessarily feel satisfying. So I will say, like, I'm going to take the day off and I'm going to do whatever I want because I'm so stressed out that I just need this time to myself. But what ends up happening is I sleep in, I watch TV, the whole day goes by and I barely notice, and I've only really done a couple of things. None of them are really productive, and I don't feel any better at the end of the day than I did at the beginning of the day, which is another part of the addictive cycle. Like, I wasn't accountable to myself for any of that, and it felt good to not be accountable, and at the same time I still feel tired and burned out, so it risks doing it for a second day, and then a third day, and then a third week. Like, the time really gets away from you whenever you get into that mentality. So the big takeaway from this video that I want you guys to take with you is that burnout, even though it is an emotional response that can feel quite physical, it is addressable. There is no one right way to really dig yourself out of burnout, but there is effective systems to help yourself to get moving again. And whether you start with just one good habit, making your bed in the morning, getting up on time, appreciating the time you get off. So to combat some of that, like, that addictive, like, I wasted the day and I'll probably waste tomorrow feeling that I was talking about towards the end there. I really like to tell myself, like, I have 2 hours, I'm going to do whatever I want for 2 hours, and then I check in and I watch the clock, not because I am being strict with myself, but because I want to feel the time that I am having off, that I am being productive and relaxing, and you appreciate that time more whenever you contrast it with something that feels like a little bit of work. So doing 2 hours of whatever I want to relax, and then, taking 15 or 20 minutes to do something productive and motivating that'll give me a less stressful tomorrow, really changed my perspective in my life. And I really feel like now whenever I do experience burnout that it is a lot briefer and a lot less brutal, because I feel well equipped to deal with that, and I hope that the rest of you after watching this video will also feel well equipped. Make sure that you like this video and please consider subscribing. I post writing related videos twice a week, and we have the Worldwide Write-a-thon coming up, so I look forward to writing with you all this weekend.